please. Good evening. This is the Raleigh Finance Committee meeting, January 20th, 2015. Call the meeting to order. And first item on the agenda is to review the minutes. And the first one is September 30th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some corrections to that.
Sure.
Minor corrections. Under item number 3, which was Article 4, I know, my notes had showed, and I think I looked at the meeting, that it was Emery that made the motion for approval, and Roy was made the second. Just like to
Okay.
correct that.
Sure.
And then on Article 7,
Okay.
there were no names there. It was Emery that made the motion, and again, Roy seconded.
Okay. Emery. And Roy.
And then on Article 12, which I think, I don't know, it's third or fourth page, Stone made the motion to approve. It was Jalbert who seconded that motion.
Instead of Emery.
Yep. And that was all I saw in the minutes.
Okay. Any other corrections or questions or comments? Okay, I think we can have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections as noted.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Sharon,
Seconded.
seconded. Any other discussion?
I'm going to abstain. I was absent.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes approved with the corrections. Second one is October 27th. Are there any corrections? Okay, no corrections. Any discussion? All right. Take a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Jamie and Janet, seconded.
I'll
Any other
abstain.
discussed?
I'll abstain. I wasn't at that
Okay.
meeting.
I wasn't even.
And 2 abstentions. All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Minutes approved. Excuse me. Item 3, request for reserve fund transfer of $16,500 of Pine Grove School emergency boiler repairs. And we have Christopher Farmer and Dave Peterson in the audience to discuss this. Dave, since you are the selectman and firsthand over there, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, I'd like to recognize that Superintendent Farmer is here to support the request from the school department. Yeah, basically what's happened is we've been meeting, we've had 2 or 3 meetings now between Bob Murray, who's the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and myself. We're on the capital planning committee with people from the school, the superintendent, Chris Walsh, who's in charge of their facilities, and Brian Forget, as well as the principal from Pine Grove School, in terms of things that are going to need to be done at Pine Grove School for the next couple of budgets. And it was brought to our attention that the boiler, there's 2 boilers over there that heat that building, and they're both 25 years old. They're both in poor condition. Boiler number 1 is in poorer condition than boiler number 2. The day we were over there in the boiler room, the noise and the grinding and so on and so forth was made you a little leery to even be standing in the boiler room. The Chris Walsh, who's in charge of facilities, told us that they basically need, and the janitor who was there also at that time, they basically need 2 boilers running to keep the school warm on the coldest weather. When it's marginal spring and fall, they can get by with 1 because you don't have the heating requirements that you do. With recent cold weather and like we're going to be having in the next few days, you really need to keep both boilers running, and they alternate and they play with them so that they get the least amount of run time together as they can. But there's no way they can heat the building without the two boilers. Boiler number one is in such condition that when the state inspectors came in, and the insurance company, they recommended that it be changed. We looked at it and listened to it, and we were with the boiler company, the low bidder for the boiler, as it turns out, and we strongly recommended that we replace the burner, not the whole boiler. There's two huge boilers, half the size of this room that heat it's a steam system over there, and the burners, the two burners that run. Bob and I, after discussing it with Chris Walsh, we felt that we needed to recommend that the burner be replaced ASAP. The reason being that the reason it's an emergency is the fact that yes, it is running at this point, but if in fact it stops running, and it could well stop at any time, it would be probably a minimum of 2 weeks' time to get replacement parts. It's not the burner motor, but there's a housing that connects the burner to the boiler that has to be custom made. It's so old that there's nothing in stock. It has to be custom made. So recommendation, the selectmen made the vote and recommended that we get an emergency transfer of $16,500, and I think you have they got 3 quotes on. That was the lowest one. That's the company that does all the work at the school anyway. They're familiar with it. And we change it ASAP, because if in fact that boiler should go down during the cold part of the winter, it requires 2 boilers to run the school, they're probably gonna have to cancel school for a number of days, depending on what the weather conditions are. And obviously the kids will be out of school, they gotta make those days up, and so on and so forth. So we voted to recommend that we transfer $16,500 to replace the boiler motor, the burner motor, and that's what we have here for you tonight.
It will take about a week and a half, and total downtime would be only a day, according to the lowest bidder.
Yeah, there'd be no need to close school or anything.
Right.
When it's being done, because they heat the building up and then shut it down, do the repair, and then.
The only thing is that he needs not a really warm day, but not 10-degree day or something like that.
Yeah, if we can catch it before it actually doesn't run anymore, we'll have
Right.
the flexibility to they'll have the flexibility to schedule it at a time that's convenient for the school and the weather conditions.
Right. You have anything else to add, Mr. Farmer?
Just some additional information. The boiler was not running this morning when the custodians arrived in school. It was fixed. We learned today that it's not a 2-week lead-in time now. It's probably a 4-week lead-in time because of the time of the year. There are limited options open if there is only one boiler. I'm sorry, I've had a cold. Only one boiler available, and that is either to close the school. The fire department will not allow us to bring in space heaters because the electrical supply is maxed out. You probably know that probably 3 years ago the school committee placed a statement of interest with the Massachusetts School Building Authority for a complete refurbishment. We don't want to replace boilers now because we don't know what kind of overall heating system will be put in place, so it's a question of making sure that boiler number 1 keeps running. Given that I can't use space heaters, the only way to keep education going will be maybe to have students educated at Newbury for part of the time and have kind of an early day and a late day school. Given the age of the children, I don't see that working. If there were secondary school children, that would be very different.
Would you consider using the library here though too?
I don't see it's got the space to
Maybe some of the classes can be taken from.
to.
I'm not saying everybody can go there, but maybe you can have, maybe 3 or 4 of the classes going to the library, because, I mean,
If you're a family, you want to know when you get up in the morning what your day is going to be like, and kind of cycling children through a different building. They're all entitled to 180 days school
Right.
in the year. And while I respect the suggestion, it's very creative. I'm not sure it would be satisfactory either educationally or to families who will be disrupted by this. So as I say, that by happen chance the boiler was down this morning. If I come into work tomorrow and the boiler is down, period, then we're probably closing school for a month.
I got a question. You said that there's something going on with the state as to having, you don't think that should have the boilers replaced at this time because of something that's going on, like studies with the state?
The whole school needs refurbishing.
And you said that was first done 3 years ago?
No, the school committee sent what's called a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority to indicate that the school committee believes that we need to do a refurbishment.
Okay.
At a very recent meeting, the selectmen moved a motion asking the school committee to resubmit that. So the school committee and the selectmen are on the same page in terms of, it was 1988, I think, when the last time the school was improved. And I won't go through all the details now, but it is a building that looks okay when you walk into it, but in terms of it's the envelope, the roof, the windows, the doors, the HVAC system, the electrical supply are all beyond their death date.
How long do they expect a decision? As because you can't go from year to year if you think you're going to need a new boiler completely.
If
New boilers.
the school committee will resubmit, if the town meeting supports it, you would have a refurbished building in 2019.
5 more years.
It's quite a long
4
way
more
out.
years.
Yeah.
4 more years.
So we're suggesting do a temporary fix
Yeah.
on the boiler rather than replace the boilers and then find that the HVA system at the end of the day requires a different kind of power system.
Okay. And how is the burner on the second boiler? Is
That at the moment
coming-
I'm not an expert. I'm not an heating
okay, I don't know
engineer,
if you know
but
what.
I'm told that that's okay at the moment.
Okay.
I think the big thing on that is if we get a new burner in boiler number 1, that one can do in the off-peak heating. That could be the one that runs. Now they swap back and forth,
Yeah,
try to keep them
alternate.
even in favor of boiler number 2. They can take some of the pressure off boiler number 2. This is definitely it's a stopgap measure.
Mm.
There will be a proposal the Board of Selectmen did vote to look at refurbishing the building, which was going to require an override for the planning purposes, but it's a long, drawn-out process. The state will reimburse us 45% if we do it. But the building needs a lot of work. There hasn't been really any money put in that building for the last 25 years since the last time it was, the addition and the
Yeah.
renovation was done. And as the superintendent said, the fire chief, when he inspected it before school started, he basically said that the power is so overmaxed there that if you want to plug something in, you really need to unplug something else. I mean, that's the situation we're running into. So this is a stopgap measure, and it's got to be done, and we're moving forward to the long-term program. Hopefully, the state will be open to us and we can expedite that program along, assuming the voters vote for the money. But it's going to be an expensive project and a drawn-out project. But this is just a stopgap to get us through, and hopefully we can get a new burner in there before this one fails completely. That's the goal for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I just had one question.
Sure.
They're taking it from the reserve fund. Do you know what the balance is on the reserve fund?
50,000.
That's
50,000.
$50,000.
Is that 50?
We replaced
Right.
the money that we took last,
Okay.
so it is full at the moment.
How much have we spent so far on snow removal this year, do you know?
I believe probably around, I checked last week, I think it was somewhere in the vicinity of $30,000, mostly on salt, because we've got all these small storms.
So what did we budget for, like
I think
50 or?
I think there's 100,000.
100,000.
So maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah, we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the transfer.
A second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Carries by 7-0. $16,500. And I'll let you start
I
it.
never had the privilege of going to Pine Grove School. I was the last class to be in center school, and the Pine Grove was late opening, and I never got to go to it.
I hope you've been to Pine Grove since then.
Oh, yes, my children went there.
Right, good, good.
My kids, I remember when they opened that new wing 25 years ago, it hardly seems possible. And remember that when the wing was ready, that it wasn't open for the first year or two because they didn't have the money to, I don't know if they didn't have the money for the furniture or whatever, but my kids were in the Pine Grove at the time and they couldn't use the new wing. And it was like, I think about 2 years before they actually got the money.
That long, but it was,
It doesn't seem possible.
They're expensive projects.
Yeah.
You know, and you gotta, a lot more than just the
25.
building department, you know.
Yeah, it was around 1990.
Time flies.
Yeah. Yeah, your kids were there too?
Yep.
I did sign up. Yeah.
Now, back in the ancient days when I went to school, there was no such thing as a gymnasium here. So we used to hike up here and play badminton up in the auditorium of the town hall.
Okay.
Am I relieved now?
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
You can go.
supporting the school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow night.
Okay, item 4, discuss liaisons and upcoming budgets. Guess we all know that we have a new governor, and we have no guidelines, no nothing as yet.
Well, he was on TV today saying he's not gonna cut local aid, so
Right.
at least for this, at least there's a $750 million budget gap that he's gonna fill without cutting local aid for this year. Now, what happens next?
Next year is,
Primarily due to the fact that they're dropping the state income tax from 5.4 to 5.2 or something like that, so there's a $500 million shortfall right there.
There's a number of different issues, so
but
That's
it's,
the
Right.
biggest one.
what we'll do for next year's budget.
What's
I
that?
don't
They
know.
knew it was coming.
I know, but, you know, everybody wants services for the state, but that they don't wanna pay for it, that's the problem. There's a disconnect there. you know.
And people voted for that back around, what, 2000, 2002, to lower it to 5%?
Right.
And they've been, it goes down like incrementally, like every 5 years or something.
It goes on a formula based on
Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
the income is,
the increase in revenue for the state. If it goes up a certain amount, then they cut the tax back by a certain
Yeah.
amount, so.
They said the
Is-
revenue is really coming in good, but the spending is going higher.
yeah, that's the problem. They have to cut the spending.
Has the Board of Selectmen or anybody given any instructions to the department heads as to how to prepare the budgets for this year?
Debbie's
Yeah,
working, the town administrator's working on it at this point, so.
Will that be coming out, you
We
know?
usually end up telling the level fund, and then
Then we go from there.
we go from there.
Mm.
You know, with certain pay raises are built in, things like that, but expenses are, what we did the last couple of years is we basically level funded expenses, and then went to individual departments that had specific needs for specific reasons. Like, right now, fuel costs are down, so that's a good sign.
That's a good sign, yeah.
All around for both fuel for the vehicles and for the buildings, so.
Excuse me.
But, yeah, we're just getting going on that at this point, so.
So if you meet with your respective departments, just tell them that, you know, they probably know as much as we do, and it looks like it's gonna be level funding, even though some of the departments are talking about increased stuff. I know at the school, they're talking about, you know, their desires to have like a full-time social worker rather than part-time and things like that, so we'll just have to wait and see.
You know, we all have our wish lists.
Yes.
Well, the big thing with the school, Larry, too, just to interject quickly, is that, you know, they're talking about the field renovation. That's-
Right.
Right now, the last figures I saw, and I don't know if they've changed them, but we're talking probably $100,000 a year for 15 years per town.
Mhm.
And that's badly needed. I mean, the stadium is basically closed up there. On top of that, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna be looking for money to put together plans for renovation, upgrading of Pine Grove. And I don't know I have no idea what the school committee is looking at in terms of a budget increase for next year's budget. So it's gonna be, schools are really gonna be a difficult proposition to deal with, I'm sure.
Will the stadium come in as a separate article and be an override?
Well, we're gonna, depending on what we'd like to be able to do is make it part of the regular budget rather than override, because we're gonna have to have an override for the school building project, the engineering cost for that. And plus, we got, not this year, but next year, we're looking at coming in, we're hiring an architect at this point for a police fire station situation that we desperately need. And that'll be coming in next year's budget, so there's a lot of big ticket items, let alone the water issues that are, that we're dealing with too, so.
But do you see that the stadium and the school budget combined won't end up being an override?
I wouldn't wanna say, the $100,000, we'd like to make it part of the, have money for, but we may not be able to.
Okay.
It really depends on, how everything comes in, as well as what the state cuts back state aid, things like that. They say they're not going to, but you'll have to wait and see what the legislature does. So right now, everything is really, really iffy. It was a year with the economy improving, we were all hoping that we'd have some room to breathe, but it seems to get tighter rather than easier, so it's gonna be a tough year for the budgets.
You don't have a date for the budgets to start coming in yet, do you?
I don't have it, no. The town administrator is working on it at this point. I imagine the next couple of weeks it's gonna go out to the department heads. And
I was just thinking about when we needed to have another meeting.
Right, I would imagine, since that's our next thing on the agenda, towards the end of February or so, probably the 24th. Does that sound good for everybody? February 24th?
To attend that one, but.
Okay, is that all right with everybody else?
24th of
February.
February.
Tuesday, right?
February.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So set it at 7:15
Okay.
on the 24th?
Sounds good now, who knows what's gonna.
Right. Okay, that's all the business we have. Have a motion to adjourn? Have a motion, have a second?
Second?
Second. Any discussion? Good. We are adjourned then. Thank you very much.
I'll discuss something because we're not on TV.
Well, yeah, wait.